going to get started here with the Passive Cash Flow Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host, Aaron Fragnito, and we have C-Roc with us. How we doing, Mike?
What's going on, Aaron? So happy to be here, fired up, ready to go on this Friday.
Awesome, man. I love Fridays. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. My favorite day of the week. Feeling of accomplishment, feeling of getting a break in the next few days, doing the things I love. I'm going to go ATV in a little bit, get my four-wheeler out. You ever go ATVing before?
Yeah, man. As a kid, I did. I don't do much anymore, though. I'm more of a golfer. So my free time's on the golf course.
That's good. My golf game is a little left to be desired, I say, but I'm working on it day in and day out,
Yeah, it takes work to get good at it. Otherwise, I don't think I'd play because it's really difficult when you're not hitting the ball well to stay with it. So
yeah, absolutely. But I do want to get some more days in of golf before the cold weather comes. I think I got a few months though. I should be all right. Absolutely.
Where are you located?
So I'm in New Jersey here.
Okay, I'm in Ocean City, Maryland. Yeah, so.
Okay, good stuff. So you do a lot of different things. Mike, C-Roc, what do you do? Talk a little bit about yourself.
Well, really, Aaron, I'm a people builder at heart. And what I mean by that is I've always been around broken people growing up, mindsets, alcoholism, drug addicts, suicides. I mean, I've had an upbringing that, to say the least, was not the easiest. Now, I'm sure there's other people that had worse, but, at heart, because of that, being around that all the time, I chose, instead of run from it, to attack it and try to help fix things. Mm-hmm. So right now, currently, I'm on a mission right now to help build people. I started a company called People Building Inc. to come off of the podcast and movement that I have, which is called What Are You Made Of? And we're just on a mission right now to go global with this and help hundreds of millions of people fix themselves and help that want to. Now, not everybody wants to fix themselves, and not everybody's going to admit that they have broken features, but we're looking for the ones that want help, and we're on a mission to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that. It's a really positive message, and I think it's so important when your business has a mission statement like that to really try and actually value helping people, helping the community. That's so important today with entrepreneurship, right? I mean, really, business has changed. Your business has to have purpose for people to want to do business with you, a bigger purpose than just making a profit or becoming more wealthy. And that's great. So you were inspired from some experiences at a young age there. And so now, when did you get started with this mission?
Well, I've been on this mission my whole life, but didn't really become aware of it until about a year and a half ago. So I'll take you back a little bit to see where this fire got lit. So when I was 11 years old, first of all, I came from a broken home. I don't remember my parents together. And I decided to live with my dad for 3 years from the age of 8 to 11, and dealt with a lot of conflict between the parents and my step-parents, and the custody battles and the child support, all this jazz, right? And as a kid, you don't really understand what's going on. I just thought it was ordinary, first of all. But meanwhile, I'm being built into this animal, this machine. And I look back on that stuff that I went through, and some people would play the victim role and go to drugs and alcohol and play all these excuses in their life. To me, I decided to make it the reason that I'm successful. And so when I was 11, I decided to leave my dad's house and go back to my mom's, and he wasn't very happy. And he decided to take this route here of basically telling me my future, and which was, he thought I was going to need money, and I wasn't going to be able to provide for myself. So he takes this wad of $100 bills out. My dad was my hero. I always looked up to him for that wad that he had in his pocket with the rubber band around it, man. And it was something that we always looked at, and and so he decided to take one, peel one off, crumple it up, and throw it at me when I decided to leave, and said, "You're going to need this when you're living on the streets with your mother one day." And how someone could say that to a kid 11 years old still blows me away. But I still, today, it's not to bash my dad. I tell the story. This is I wanted you to know where I came from and how this fire got lit. So at that moment when that happened, I thought to myself, first of all, I'm not going to need that money. I'm going to prove you wrong. Number two, I'm going to help people. I'm going to be a person that's a shining light for people, to show that you can come from being given up on and you can absolutely do great things. And so being a role model to people, and then from there into my 30s and 40s, I started really working with people to try to help them with psychological resilience, I call it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's incredible. That's an incredible story. And then, so also you're, and you teamed up with Grant Cardone or a team at some point as well. I saw you did a podcast with him I was listening to earlier today. And that was some pretty cool stuff. How'd you end up teaming up with his group?
So Grant, I read his book a while back. My little brother gave it to me, and I saw the 10X rule before. I didn't know what the heck it was. I had seen Grant on pictures and things, sitting in a nice car or plane or something. I didn't know what, had no clue what was going on with it. I read the book at a time in my life where I actually needed it, where I was making a transition from one company to another with my whole team. And I felt like we were, struggling at that moment. And I read the 10X rule and it just spoke to me. The 10X rule actually reached out, and it was like Grant punched me in the face in a good way. And so I'm like, this guy speaks to me, man. This is my kind of guy. This is the life I want to live. And I, for some reason, was living with an animal inside of me, but it was caged. I was worried about what people would think if I go nuts and act unreasonable with my actions. I was always worried about telling people what my dreams were, because I was worried about what they thought or what they would say. And so what Grant did for me was he was basically gave me validation to act like the animal, to let the animal out and understand that people are going to say things no matter what. And they're going to look at you and try to pull you back, but use that as fuel. And so I got on board with that and got my whole team on Cardone U, which is a training platform that Grant has. It's the #1 sales training platform on the planet. And our business shot up 800% in the mortgage business that I run. Wow. Now, when that happened, I saw those results. And then the more money I invested with Grant, the more money I made and my team made. And so I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree, but I know enough to know that if you put money somewhere and it multiplies, you keep going to that well. Right. So I decided to become a licensee with Grant so that I could teach his material to other people along with my content and how I'm implementing it. And it works well together. And, proximity's power. So Aaron, when you get around people that are doing things you want to do, or they're on the place of journey where you want to go, you get around those people, you hang out with them, you immerse yourself in their content, and then sit back and watch yourself take off. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm a big fan of that. I like to surround myself with other successful people, like-minded individuals. Mastermind groups are always good, and I've been meaning to get into Grant's stuff a little more. He's all over the place. He's a lot. He's definitely an acquired taste. But I do want to read his book there, and I want to check him out. And I've heard a lot of good things about it. So that's interesting. So you have a mortgage business. You have a business coaching business, it seems here. What are the businesses you own? So those are the main things. And then the podcast itself monetizes as well. So those are the three things I'm focusing on right now. And then the next step is I have a book that's coming out at the end of the year called What Are You Made Of? The Art of People Building. And that is, by the way, your audience can get that for free. If they go to themikeciorrocco.com, if you want to put that in the show notes, they can go there and get the book for free when it comes out, because I want as many people to have this as possible. But the other thing is that we're going to be working on is a clothing line. And there's clothing lines, if they're good quality, they sell better when they have a story behind them. Sure. And What Are You Made Of is a movement. And when you have that, and the C-Roc brand, my name's Mike Ciorrocco, but people call me C-Roc, but we have a brand, C-Roc brand, that is going to work with clothing. And we're just fired up to get that going in the next year or so. And, if I look at it as like Under Armour did it, Kevin Plank can do it, I can do it. Hell yeah, that's the right attitude. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, right now it's so, you can really start a clothing brand without actually buying the inventory, right? You don't need to start a factory, so really that's a great way to build your brand. It's a great way to get out there. And of course, every t-shirt that sells is a walking billboard, right? I mean, that's a perfect way to market your company and a way to keep your guests engaged as well, your fans engaged. So I love it. I love the brand you're building. And it's, right, as I was saying before, it's so important to inspire people, right? I run a real estate syndication. I raise capital to buy buildings like the one you see behind me. But, that's not really what I do, right? I mean, that's the asset class, that's the infrastructure. But at the end of the day, my job is to guide people, find out what their financial needs are, see if we're a fit for what they're looking to do. And just help them diversify into an asset class that we know how to do very well and have a great track record in. But it's really about kind of inspiring people to actually make that leap. I was speaking with an investor yesterday, and he was saying, well, I'm worried about a recession, and I'm completely invested in the stock market. And
saying, well, you probably want to diversify out of the stock market. And it's amazing how scared people are to diversify or to take any type of step, which is really the right step to always be diversified, or whether it's deciding to start a business that you're going to inspire others, or telling your story, or not being afraid to be yourself. And, that's so necessary to be an entrepreneur. Right? People say, how do you be an entrepreneur? How do you run your own business? Well, it's not being fearless, but it's being able to handle fear, being able to wake up every morning and say, I'm going to do the things that challenge me, do the things that I'm a little scared to do, that maybe I'm not great at right now, but I'm learning how to do them. And, that's something that I think we need constant inspiration to keep doing, whether you're running a business or not. But who do you find yourself working with the most? Is it business owners or people trying to kind of get out of the rat race, or a little of both?
It's mostly salespeople and business owners. And, similar to me, like the mortgage is what our vehicle is in that side of the business, or that industry that I'm in. But really, man, mortgages, I like mortgages and all, but it's not what I'm passionate about. It's really the vehicle that we use to accomplish our goals of people building. And so similar to what you're doing, you're in a form of people building. You're covering the financial literacy and financial help part of people building, because people need money. And, you can build people via helping them get money or making their money multiply. And so, yeah, you're in the same thing. I relate to that 100%. But here's the thing, man. At the end of the day, you said something about purpose. And purpose is not just to get customers and have a story to tell, and it helps you get customers. That's important. But purpose helps you get through the tough times, helps you get through the setbacks, the negativity. That's the thing. Or when you don't feel like doing something that day, like, you got to raise some money, right? And you have a property that you guys you're going for, and you need a certain amount of money to do that. And some days you might get up in the morning and just not feel like it.
Oh yeah.
Purpose makes you get your ass up. And that's what purpose does for me.
No, absolutely. That's what it's about. Because it's a tough business. It's a grind. There's always another building. There's always another relationship. There's always someone new to educate. And, so you really have to find your deeper purpose. It's not just the money. I don't just want to be a millionaire and be wealthy. No, I want to actually transform the way people think about wealth, and the way people understand wealth. It's funny. I got a degree in entrepreneurship at Rowan University. And it was a good school. I learned a lot about how to show up on time and work hard and do things like that. I learned what a debit was and a credit. I learned what a franchise was. I learned nothing about wealth. I didn't learn how to build wealth. I didn't learn why the 1% are so much more wealthy than the other 99. And that's crazy, because I was an entrepreneur major, right? I was literally paid $150,000 to learn how to be someone who creates wealth and creates value, solves a problem. And, a lot of the people I learned from were people that learned from books and never actually ran a business. And I realized that the education, this whole system is outdated. And that's why there's so many people out there like you, like all these people teaching, Grant Cardone, all these guys out there that are making millions teaching people how to build wealth, because there's such a need for it, and it's not taught in schools. And if you think you're going to get $200,000 to a university and learn how to build wealth, you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. They don't teach you how to become rich. They teach you how to work for someone. And
I have a theory. I have a theory on that. Yeah, that's exactly it. I think it's on purpose. It's not by accident. A lot of people think it's by accident. They're like, oh man, it just, they don't teach you that there. They don't know any better. It's not that. It's the fact that they were basically, universities started to train workers and give them skills to be beyond just a laborer for the people that have to do with wealth, that build wealth. And that's what happened. And I think it's on purpose that way. And it's designed also with the student loans to keep people in check, keep them down so they can't build wealth. And if you look at the student, the amount of money universities cost, it's a business, right? Also, absolutely. The student loans that people come out of school with, obviously that's another topic. It buries you. There's doctors and lawyers that come out of school and they're buried unless they know how to start a business and scale it. They're going to be buried working for someone else. But it's on purpose. My thought is it's no accident.
No, I agree 100%, and not to sound like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but I was amazed that I, went to a blue ribbon high school. I went to a great college. I did everything. I checked all those boxes, dean's list, And I came out of that and I said, what the heck I have no idea how to be an entrepreneur. I had a landscaping business. I had a painting business I did an internship with, which was kind of a bit of a pyramid scheme. But I did learn how to sell a product or a service I didn't know how to give, which was interesting. Yep. And, but really I thought what I want to create is a school where half of your tuition goes towards starting an actual business. So the first 2 years, you learn how to actually start a business from guys that actually started a business, and you have more of experience-based learning. And then the second 2 years, that tuition goes towards an investment in your company, because it's a lot easier to start a business with money. It's almost nearly impossible to start a business with no capital. So any serious business. So really, that is what I would love to see universities go towards: actual experienced hands-on learning. And listen, if you lose money, if you lose your tuition money in the 2 years starting that business and it's a failure, great. That's money you would have thrown away to a university anyway. And
the lessons learned are probably more valuable, right?
The lessons, the things I've learned from my losses in real estate, are not even comparable to what I learned from my wins. My wins are great. They're the taglines, but the losses are what makes you a real businessman, a real leader in the industry, and learn how to come back from that stronger. And, but what do you think about that idea? 2 years of tuition goes towards experience-based learning, and then 2 years goes towards actually starting the business.
I don't think you're going to see that in the current system, but if you create something outside of that, I don't know if you can get accredited that way, but I think if you start, I think it's a fantastic idea to do outside of that. I just don't know what universities are going to buy into that because remember, my theory is the fact that they're doing it just to create workers for people that are building wealth. Now think about in high school, that's all they talked about was, man, we got to get you college ready. They basically brainwash you into thinking that you need to go to college.
Right.
And but you know what? There are some people that should go to college. There are some people that have purpose of helping people in the medical field or want to be attorneys or what have you. And you have to go to school to learn those things. But if you're not going to go into a specialized field like that, obviously they should really look at that and talk to people about, hey, college might not be the best for you. And listen, there's nothing wrong with that. Don't make the people feel bad. Don't make the kids feel bad if they're not going to be a doctor or a lawyer. Teach them, hey, I'm going to teach you how to go get money, how to collect money, and how to multiply that money.
Yeah, and I remember my buddies in high school that didn't go to college and ended up going to vocational schools and learning crafts, and now they're HVAC techs, or they're doing great. They're making a ton of dough doing that because there's such a demand for contractors and service providers. And first of all, they were out in the workforce 2 years earlier with a fraction of debt. I don't even think they had debt because the cost of vocational school is so much less. And I remember thinking oh, they're, the less smart, the less fortunate, almost like feeling bad for them, And now I have friends that got a 4-year, business degree, and, they owe $200,000 to a university, and they're making, $55,000 a year at the base level of a corporation going into Manhattan. And it's such a shame, to see us think that way. It's so wrong. Now there's a shortage of contractors. There's a shortage of people that want to work with their hands. We need to really change the educational system.
Yeah, I believe so. And, here's the other thing, you're trained all through school to work for someone and rely on people.
Yeah.
And everything changed in my life when I realized that I'm responsible for creating my own economy. I'm responsible for creating wealth. I am responsible, not anybody else. I'm not going to point the finger and rely on anybody else either. I am responsible. So once I've learned to really operate under 100% responsibility in my life, everything changed. And so, if you're thinking of things right now and you're going through your day and you ever point the finger at someone else for anything, you need to stop and remember what I'm telling you right now. For your own sake, if you take 100% responsibility, you become the puppet master and not the puppet. And I've never met anyone that wants to be the puppet. So something to think about when you blame someone, or, we all do it. We catch ourselves sometimes oh, wait a minute. What could I do differently?
Right.
And then you get to control, and everybody wants control.
Oh, yeah. I mean, individualism, being responsible for yourself is becoming less and less popular, I feel, in the mainstream media, and just everything we see. I think it's really frustrating what people are being taught in college, just to kind of hate success, hate America, not have, you're responsible for yourself. You're not part of a group. You're not an oppressor or a victim. You're responsible for yourself, and you have the opportunity to be whatever you want in the greatest country in the world. I mean, and if you don't think America is the greatest country in the world with tons of opportunity, then go travel, go check it out, and that individual responsibility actually goes down to our roots of what this country was founded on, our founding fathers saying you have opportunity to pursue happiness, and in fact, you have the right to pursue happiness, and it's pursue happiness, right? It's not you have the right to a $1,200 government check. You don't have the right to $600 unemployment. You have the right to pursue happiness. That's what we have the right to do. And, I came out of college thinking that America was a bad place that oppressed people and had a terrible history. And I wasn't necessarily taught that by my professors, I'd say, but just the media, the YouTube videos, my friends, kind of the whole mindset, of a cocky 22-year-old who thinks this country's completely backwards, but hasn't actually worked a full-time job in his life, and that mindset, it was crazy. And towards my late 20s, when I started really running a business, I tried to get a building permit, realized how hard it was to deal with local government, that actually when you have tons of government regulation, it slows down business and stops jobs from happening. And, in getting in the real world, I realized that I was actually a little brainwashed in college. And, it was very interesting. Did you go to college, or were you right at?
Yeah, I played football at Salisbury University in Maryland, right down the street from my house where I live now. But not to get into politics, and I have a problem with both sides of the aisle, so to speak. But when you enable people in general, you enable someone, you're not helping them. But it's a great way to get votes because people don't understand that. It's nothing wrong with a handout as far as helping someone and helping hand and helping them up. Sure. When you continuously do it and pour it on them, you're putting them into a prisoner situation where they're relying on it and they get held back by it. And so, but it's a great way to get votes. So that's the problem that we have. And what happened is there's certain people in politics that have gotten really good at manipulating people and figuring out what they want to hear and telling them what they want to hear just to get the vote. And then once they get the vote, they don't care about those people. Yeah. That's a problem, man. And it happens a little bit on both sides. I'm not going to get involved with that, but it's a problem that I see is that, number one, people need to take 100% responsibility for your actions. Stop blaming other people. Stop playing a victim. And number two, do not enable people. Right. Do not enable people unless you're really just trying to get elected and just want their vote, and that's all you care about, which is very, very obvious when that happens. Yeah. I mean, politicians are so backwards. I remember a day when I wanted to be in politics. I wanted to be a politician. And then I started to study politicians and learn more about them and see our current day politicians. And they're probably some of the most disgusting human beings on the entire planet. If you actually sat down with most of our political leaders and really got to learn their principles, you'd find they really have none. They're actually just, I don't want to speak about every politician, but for the most part, from what I can see, it's whatever the current is, whatever the tides are, this is what we're going to do now. So I don't want to get too political here. No, I'm with you though. I'm with you. I agree. It's not a political show. We're talking about Passive Cash Flow Podcast. How did we get onto this here? Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second, because I got a question for you. So first of all, when do you think, and this is your show, but I got to ask you a question if you don't mind. I'm used to asking questions. I like it. Go ahead. I like talking. So here's the thing. So when you have a multifamily property to invest in or you have money to put into a business, why would people, and this is what I go through in my mind, why would people stop investing in businesses and invest in multifamily property when businesses, to me, the return on businesses can be upwards to about 50 to 100% or more. From what I've seen and with my money, that's what I've been doing. And I have other investments, don't get me wrong, but I just want to hear your opinion on that. Of when do you make that change? And when do you think, okay, that's enough of the businesses right now. Let me shift some money over into real estate. I think it's good to be diversified. If there are good businesses to invest in, that's obviously a good opportunity you want to take advantage of. I think what we're a good service for are people that are looking to diversify into something more long-term, something more stable,
if you're investing in a startup company or a business of some type, there's inherently a lot of risk to that. And I think it's a little more complicated as well. So it really depends, of course, what the business is, who's running it, and there's really probably more risk to and more moving pieces to that than investing in an apartment building in a high demand market that for ages has been, collecting rent. There's a high demand to live there within an hour of Manhattan, allows you to commute to Manhattan in less than an hour, gives you a ton of tax benefits. So you actually get, to write off all your cash flow. And then we refinance every few years and eventually do a 1031 tax deference and trade into a bigger building. So, there's other investments that might put, pie in the sky numbers, like better returns on paper. But in the long-term view of real estate, and we're very conservative on our projections as well, is that just over time with the tax benefits and the cash flow and the refinance capital, you do very well. And really around mid-teen returns for a lot of our investors year over year, which is pretty aggressive for a completely passive, lower risk investment. But I always tell my investors, be diversified. You should probably have a third in stocks and bonds. You should probably have a third in cash and businesses and things like that. And then probably a third in real estate is what I suggest. But everyone has their own recipe. But I love the idea of investing in cash flow businesses. But I also know that I've seen businesses have good days and bad days, and you've got to really do your due diligence. You got to really pick and choose. And quite frankly, most people probably aren't qualified to really underwrite a business or fully understand a business.
Yep.
And that's the challenge.
Yep. I love that. I love that answer, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I'd love to talk as well. If you have any more questions.
Man, I can come up with plenty. But really at the end of the day, man, you need to figure out, people need to figure out, okay, what should I be spending most of my time on?
Right.
And getting money and collecting money and figuring out ways to do that so that they can invest is what people should be spending most of their time on. But the problem is people get caught up and they focus on all these different things. They don't focus on the money generating ideas and principles and activities to be able to invest. And
exactly.
So, but I love what you're doing, man. I'm invested in real estate. I love the idea of multifamily properties, especially when you find the right property. And at the end of the day, you can increase the rent on the property as well, right? If you take care of the property and do some minor upgrades to it.
Oh yeah. I mean, we lower the expenses. We find more ways to make income on the property, laundry, storage, and we renegotiate leases higher. We set terms and leases so they increase over time as well. And what's crazy about real estate is if you increase the cash flow by $1, it actually increases the value by exponentially more than that. So just like a business, right? Real estate it's exactly like a business. When I buy an apartment building like the one behind me, I'm buying a business and I'm improving the way the business runs with my in-house management. It's just a business of real estate and collecting rents. And quite frankly, in this tough time, we're at 90% collections. We're doing okay. Interest rates are phenomenally low. So it's a very good business to be in through this tough time. And, I think in the long term, it's good as well. But all right, Mike, we usually do about 30 minutes here. So we're getting towards the end. How can people reach you?
The best way is on Instagram. I answer my DMs all the time. I got a great following there and a great content that's put out there. It's at Mikey C-Roc with no K, at Mikey C-Roc with no K. Check it out. And if you want to copy the free book that's coming out, themikecroc.com.
Awesome, Mike C-Roc. Very cool stuff. Be sure to send me that information. I'll make sure to put it in the show notes. And guys, my name's Aaron Fragnito. I'm co-founder of People's Capital Group. As you know, if you listen to our Passive Cash Flow podcast, we buy apartment buildings in New Jersey and work with qualified investors. To learn more, go to peoplescapitalgroup.com where you can watch our webinars and our other podcast episodes and check out some of the buildings we own. And if you want to qualify there or fill out the application to qualify, that's right on our website, peoplescapitalgroup.com. That's it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a good day, Mike.
Thanks for having me, bud.